MicroStrategy is struggling once again, and I found these series of articles and posts, and I just needed to share it with you guys. You guys let me know down in the comments section what you think. But obviously, Bitcoin has not been able to surpass $110,000 per coin. Everyone thought that as soon as the Trump administration began to take over, crypto was going to start booming. Nonetheless, again, I understand everything takes time. My issue isn't with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, obviously, if you want to invest into that asset, that is up to you, right? It could potentially yield you some reward, but obviously comes at a great form of risk due to how much it could potentially pull on back. Now, don't get me wrong. There is no signs of a break of support or a break of pattern. You guys have heard me talk crap on Bitcoin many times before. I think that it's not talk crap. It's just, hey, it's overvalued, right? It's at $100,000 per coin. In the short term, it's bound to pull on back. But there is no break of support. It's still holding above 90,000. And I believe until we actively begin to trade below 90,000, Bitcoin can continue to push up. But the part that I find very, very funny is this thing that you just simply cannot deny is that although Bitcoin was nearly at previous all-time highs, MSTR is still lagging behind. MSTR is still trading at $330 per share when its previous all-time high is $543 per share. So if you look at the previous price and the current price, it is down 38, almost 40%. 40% is nearly 50%. It's nearly lost half of its value, while Bitcoin is still trading at previous all-time highs. Fairly close to it, right? It's off by about 5%. Nonetheless, it's trading so far below Bitcoin's price, yet it's trading at a multiple of what it carries in Bitcoin. We have said this so many times before, and it's because Michael Saylor continues to do these share offerings. He continues to dilute his investors. For those that do not know what MicroStrategy is, MicroStrategy through and through is a software company. That's what it was from the early 2000s. It's a shitty software company at that, since it traded sideways. It wasn't until his company was so shitty. Imagine this. You have a publicly traded company that you decide, screw this. Our company's not growing. I'm just going to actually start to borrow against our shares and start buying Bitcoin because that's going to be the Hail Mary, right? And he did this back in 2020, and it paid off for a short period of time while Bitcoin pushed up, and then it came crashing down. And again, people think that, again, I'm calling out that the sky is falling. No. He's done this in the past before, and when Bitcoin came crashing down, as it always does, so does his stock. So it's simply, presenting the obvious of, hey, this might be incredibly risky because it looks attractive since it gained so much traction within a short period of time. But as soon as Bitcoin begins to sell off, because that's the underlying asset that it's buying, MSTR is bound to crash. And in my opinion, it's bound to crash harder and faster than what it did last time, because of how incredibly inflated it is. And the part that I found to be super funny is I'm sure a handful of you guys just probably saw over the week that Michael Saylor just got featured on Forbes. And everyone is sharing this because it's so funny. Forbes is notorious for featuring on the cover a bunch of either CEOs that their companies failed and or are now in jail, such as this young lady here. A lot of you guys might remember him. It's Sam Bankman-Fried, right? The FTX. For those that don't, we'll talk about that in a little bit. This is the, WeWork CEO. Unfortunately, his company, when it went public, was not producing enough revenue. It was overinflated and came crashing down when it did IPO. And then, of course, Michael Saylor, who was just recently featured. If you guys have ever heard Michael Saylor speak in an interview, how he talks about Bitcoin, just my opinion, he sounds like an absolute idiot. He sounds so over his head. He has no fundamental reasoning on why he states countries should get rid of every other capital asset and just buy Bitcoin. Again, of course he would say that because he would simply be enriching himself by encouraging other countries, other institutions, and other billionaires to do the same as him. Because again, just like a Ponzi scheme, if enough people come together and value, right, by acknowledging and purchasing and investing in Bitcoin, then that's where the value is driven. But at the end of the day, who's buying anything with Bitcoin on the day to day? Not the average American. It's just simply not there. Now, don't get me wrong. Can Bitcoin get there over a period of time? Sure. But for him to be speaking so aggressively now that countries need to get rid of every capital asset, get rid of gold, crash gold, and focus on Bitcoin. No one will ever do that. And it just sounds absolutely insane that an individual would ever encourage countries, institutions, and other billionaires to do the same as him simply because it would be in his benefit. Now, a lot of you MSTR bag holders might be like, well, Ricky, you're just a hater. You're just against him. I don't know why you're in such favor of Michael Saylor because you own a few shares of MicroStrategy when all he continues to do is dilute your shares. I'm sure a lot of you guys have recently seen that he just got a new package where now he can offer up to 10 billion shares of MicroStrategy. That will be more than Apple or any big tech company that's currently publicly traded. I mean, he now even came out with a new stock that will be more of a preferred stock of offering. And MicroStrategy might have to cut its price for 8% for this preferred stock offering. So again, he continues to do everything and anything other than actually grow his company of MicroStrategy. Because if you look at it, this is the part that excites me more. You might be like, Ricky, what are you getting to? Why do you keep talking about this? February 5th, that's going to be the date when he reports earnings, when MicroStrategy reports earnings. And this is where everything will have to come to light with how much money is this company actually producing? Is it profitable? Aside from its Bitcoin holdings, because we all know that this company is absolute garbage other than what it owns in Bitcoin because of you guys. And I mean this. Michael Saylor has been able to enrich himself and MicroStrategy for a short period of time during this Bitcoin bull run by borrowing against your shares, continuously diluting you to then offer more shares so he could buy more Bitcoin. While you continue, let's say that you invested $50,000 into MicroStrategy, you could have just invested into Bitcoin itself, and you probably would have made a larger return because again, MicroStrategy continues to lack progress. Why is it that MicroStrategy is not growing in price? It's actually declining consistently when Bitcoin is actually the one that has made new highs. That's the part that just simply doesn't make sense. If you are so bullish on Bitcoin, then buy the asset itself of Bitcoin. Why would you ever buy a company that continues to dilute your shares and therefore you get less return for your money? It just makes no sense. This is a software company and he can call it whatever it is that he wants, or he calls it a Bitcoin treasury. No, it's not. It's MicroStrategy. It is a software company that is complete BS. And just like in early 2000, when the overall market, the dot-com bubble crashed and he lost $6 billion, he was found for accounting fraud. So it's going to be very interesting. That's why I wanted to show you this, how this all plays out, because now it looks like it's finally all coming together. It happened with Sam Bankman-Fried. He was the CEO of FTX. Incredibly over leveraged, and as soon as he was announced shortly after, Bitcoin came crashing down when it came to find out that FTX was incredibly leveraged. They were losing a ton of money, and just like most crypto traders, they had so much leverage that they couldn't tolerate a pullback. And as soon as the pullback began to happen, when these companies have to default, then again, when one big domino falls, they all fall. The thing that I want to remind you is, well, how is this similar to MicroStrategy? Right? He's not a brokerage. You're right, but he owns a lot of Bitcoin and he owns it at a very expensive price. I think it was just announced that he purchased another 10,000 Bitcoin at over $100,000 per coin. I want to remind you that Bitcoin always, it's not an opinion, it's a fact. Bitcoin always crashes, and it crashes about 70% every single time. Look and do your own due diligence. If you look at previous highs and you see the retracement potential, 80%. This was back in 2018. If we look at the retracement that it had in 2021, 2022, that was a 76% sell-off. Right now, Michael Saylor's average purchase price is $63,000 to $65,000 per Bitcoin. We're at 102. So from our current price level, a $63,000, $62,000 pullback is only 40%. If we pull back at least 70% as it has every single time, that would be a retracement to around $32,000 to $35,000. that means that he would be down nearly 50% on his investment. And I just want to ask you, what do you think would happen then if Michael Saylor, borrowing against all of his investors at 0% interest, is down 50% on his Bitcoin investment, and it might take 4 years for that stock to recover? He might have to liquidate those shares. Investors are going to get very mad. It's really easy to talk the talk during a bull run, but can you tolerate a pullback? Because that's always what happens. It's not an if. All markets pull on back. I don't even just want to call out crypto. All markets always pull on back. And it is so insane to me that people continue to support the case of buying at all-time highs when, again, we all know that a retracement is inevitable. It's going to happen. And I just think it's such a terrible recipe for disaster, because this truly will hurt the entire Bitcoin industry because of this one individual. Everyone will praise him during this bull run, but as soon as things begin to fall, they will blame him for being the sole reason on why it crashed. But it's not just his reason. I really don't think he's doing, do I agree with what he's doing? No. Do I support it? No. But he's very open about what he's doing. He says that he wants to invest in Bitcoin for the next 21 years. He's obsessed about it, but he lays it all out. But I know that, again, he will be the fall guy when it comes down to this. I have nothing against the dude. He's doing what he can to make as much money as possible. But it just simply does not tolerate a pullback when you're that incredibly over leveraged at extremely overbought levels. And that's what I'm simply here to remind you, is that please take downside risk into consideration. Because we all know it's not that it has to happen now. Bitcoin can still possibly make new highs. This euphoria of Bitcoin pushing and this bull run can still present itself. But we all know that a crash is inevitable for Bitcoin. It always happens. And it's just asking yourself, do you have a plan of action when that does begin to present itself? Because crypto traders are notorious for being over leveraged at overbought levels. And then when a correction happens, they all get margin called and it creates a wave of selling pressure. I just hope that you do your part in not being part of that statistic of a crypto bag holder, right? And again, if you want to invest in Bitcoin, then invest in Bitcoin. Why would you ever in your right mind invest in a company that continues to dilute your shares by borrowing against your shares so they can enrich themselves? That just makes absolutely no sense to me. But again, that's just my opinion. So I appreciate you guys' time. You guys let me know down in the comments section what you think. Do you think that MicroStrategy is a good investment, or do you think that it's only a ticking time bomb and as soon as Bitcoin begins to fall, MicroStrategy will come crashing down just like it did last time in 2022? I appreciate your time. Hope that earned a thumbs up. Please consider subscribing. And don't forget, if you want to watch me trade live as soon as Monday, it's the second link in the description down below. And I'll see you then. Take care, team.